So when we build solutions, what we focus on is if we do not give them AI solutions, they will go look them up themselves, right? Those solutions will not always have compliance in mind. Those solutions will not have data accuracy in mind. And as we know, AI solutions or AI tools out there, they have bias, they have hallucination going on. So it's our job to make sure everything is validated. It's our job to make sure that the audience, our HR leaders, feel supported, that they can leverage, all the tools and technologies, and then they can show up as their best selves. They can have more automation in their day-to-day. Consequently, they can go help the business leaders as they are either reducing, augmenting, changing direction, or whatever it is they are doing, instead of just, being busy with day-to-day manual work. So that's how we think of how do we enable our HR business partners to be more data-driven, to be more AI-driven.
Welcome to the HR Huddle podcast, presented by Sapient Insights Group, the ultimate resource for all things HR. It's time to get in the huddle.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the HR Huddle. I'm your host, Teri Zipper. I'm the CEO and managing partner at Sapient Insights Group, and I'm back for another exciting episode of HR We Have a Problem. This is the show where we like to break down the big and most relevant issues of the day. We help you make sense of what they mean for you, and we talk about what you might do about them. So joining me today is Pragya Gupta. Pragya is the Chief Operating Officer at isolved, and I am really excited to have you. Welcome, Pragya. Great to have you.
Wonderful. Thank you for having me, Teri. Excited to be here.
Yeah. I'm excited. I'm surprised we're both not in pink today, since that tends to be both of our brands at this point. I wear pink every week, so I'm like, I think I'm going to go a little different today.
For us, on Tuesdays we wear pink, so I kind of not, being on brand today, so I am not happy about that. But on Tuesdays we especially wear pink.
Yeah. Well, the show goes out on Thursdays, so nobody will know.
Oh.
So, Pragya, you've been focused on championing, sort of building smarter and better connected workplaces. And I know isolved has kind of been at the forefront of helping HR leaders navigate some of those really critical moments in the workplace. I know you guys also explored how organizations are elevating HR in the age of AI. I think that's something you guys are really focused on. And how leaders are kind of bridging that gap between what employees want from you and what you can actually deliver as an organization, right? And I know you put out an annual HR leaders report. That's really awesome. I thought the audience might be interested in hearing about what HR is doing right now, what you're seeing changing in 2026, and how AI is sort of being integrated thoughtfully into this process while sort of bridging that gap, right, between the employer capabilities and the employee needs, because there's a lot of disruption coming down the pike still, right? And navigating this and, other disruptions in HR in 2026, I think people are really interested in hearing more about. Does that sound like a good plan to you?
Yes, that's a great starting point as well. And something you pointed out, AI, I know everyone is talking about it. It's top of mind for everyone. The reality is, every CEO in some shape or form is waking up today and asking their CHRO, okay, what does this disruption mean for me, my company, from a talent perspective? I keep hearing there are organizations who are reducing their staff. What does that mean for us as an organization? So there is a lot of conversation that's happening. And HR has become this strategic operator in that discussions, especially as leaders across the companies, they are modernizing systems. But with that, HR has to prioritize employee experience and do much better workforce planning. So, it's really that shift from reactive to anticipatory that's happening. And leaders across the companies, they're using data, they're using automation and AI to predict needs instead of just simply responding to them. And then what HR is doing is they are kind of being that partner sitting next to to the leaders, right? Leaders saying, okay, I have to embrace AI. Okay, that means you have to train your workforce with AI. How do we shift patterns of work? How do we leverage some systems of AI and do more differently, while making sure, while HR is sitting there and being like, okay, how do we make sure compliance is still top of mind? If we are reducing workforce, we are reducing it more thoughtfully. If we are increasing or upskilling workforce, how do we do that more thoughtfully? So there's a lot that's happening in the work, that's reshaping the way HR is showing up. What we see is that 63% of HR leaders, based on our data, say that 63% say that AI there is some sort of AI transformation, disruption, acceleration happening in their business, but it is still pretty scattered, and which is where AI leaders can kind of be that more thoughtful glue that binds the whole organization together.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. I think more and more the CEO and the C-suite is looking to HR to be a pretty significant leader in this. They can't do it alone, right? But they've got some pretty big shoes to fill in terms of figuring out how this all works, because what's happening is it's impacting resources. It's part of the workforce. I know you guys are seeing this as very much a part of the workforce, not a replacement of the workforce. And I know you've been doing a lot of work with the idea of people heroes. What are people heroes and how do they fit into this equation?
Absolutely. My background here says where people heroes grow. And people heroes is a kind of like the ethos of our organization, the way I think about it. So what we do is we are sidekicks in the story of our people heroes. And who are people heroes? People heroes are HR practitioners, HR, leaders, HR doers who show up every day. They are running payroll, hiring people, they are doing recruiting, they're running compliance functions, HR functions, termination, talent management, all functions. And truly, if you think about HR, it's still a little bit unsung heroes, right? Type of job. So what we do is we make them heroes in their own story. So we have people, a very vibrant community where all our customers come together. Overall, we have 200,000 plus customers. A lot of our customers, they come together and they kind of start helping each other, right? We make it like a community where people can lean on each other, they can learn from each other. And again, they are the heroes and we are the sidekicks in their story. And why that's important is that's big part of our culture, right? When we think of us as an organization, we provide the best culture to our employees, best pathways of growth, best opportunities to our employees. Then the employees provide the best technology solutions, services to our customers, and then customers take care of the business. They take care of the bottom line, top line, and everything in between, right? So it's our culture that lends itself to a great service, and then service insulates the product that we offer, right? So that's the ethos of our organization, and people heroes is really our belief in making everyone a hero in their story.
Yeah, yeah. We sometimes think about the technology being the end all be all, but it's the people operating the technology. The technology is a tool. It's a way to get things done faster. But at the end of the day, and I like this concept of people heroes. It's kind of like, so we do a lot of change management, and these are kind of like change agents, right? These are the people in the organization that other people trust and they go to and they look to for guidance in terms of how they proceed in the organization and what the culture is, and just how to operate within that organization, or at least that's kind of how I'm seeing them, or I'm envisioning them. And they don't have to be leaders necessarily. They could be anybody in the organization, right?
Absolutely.
Driving change for people, focused on the communication, focused on how we tell the message within our organization about what we do and why we're here, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's really, everyone says we've got the best service, but really when you pick up the phone within 19 seconds every single time, when you go improve your ability to answer the phone 7 to 8 seconds every year, right? Now, those are some of the things, so those are some of the metrics we drive ourselves with, right? Our CSAT has held consistent year over year, and we look at it every month. Has it gone up? Has it gone down? What we could have done differently, right? So it's the service, it doesn't happen magically. That it needs a lot of constant inspection, introspection, and adaptation, which is what we are excellent at, and we make sure that that runs through across the DNA of the organization.
Yeah. The report I talked about earlier that you guys do, and this is the HR leaders report, that if I read this right, it looked at across like 2,000 organizations in terms of their HR. So that's pretty phenomenal. You looked at how disruption, like and just over the last 5 years, right? From the pandemic to AI to everything in between, that's reshaped how we work and how we get things done in the organization. But what would you say is the biggest shift that HR leaders have made in the last year or so? And what does that mean for 2026?
Yeah, and that's a great question. As I was saying earlier, it's going from being other business leaders telling HR that we are going to be doing this or making this change, or this is the business process we're going to make efficient, or what have you. Instead, for HR to become more proactive, more collaborative in that effort, sitting right next to the business leaders and leveraging data, leveraging AI based prediction, understanding analysis to be able to guide the leaders, right? So 69% of, as you pointed out, the HR leader survey, 69% of HR leaders told us that they are using AI in some shape or form, right? So when we build solutions, what we focus on is, if we do not give them AI solutions, they will go look them up themselves, right? Those solutions will not always have compliance in mind. Those solutions will not have data accuracy in mind. And as we know, AI solutions or AI tools out there, they have bias, they have hallucination going on. So it's our job to make sure everything is validated. It's our job to make sure that the audience, our HR leaders, feel supported, that they can leverage, all the tools and technologies, and then they can show up as their best selves. They can have more automation in their day to day. Consequently, they can go help the business leaders as they are either reducing, augmenting, changing direction, or whatever it is they are doing, instead of just being busy with day to day manual work. So that's how we think of how do we enable our HR business partners to be more data driven, to be more AI driven.
The other thing in your report that talks a lot about the HR leaders that are stepping into more of a strategic role. But at the same time, what we saw this year in our research, the Sapient research, is that outcomes are slipping, right? So a lot of leaders still don't have the systems they need, the data they need. At some level, I kind of feel like, are we asking too much of HR? Like, have we, are we setting them up to fail, right? Because we're not giving them the things that they need to make this work. Because those outcomes are directly tied to the profit and loss of the business, right?
Yeah, absolutely. AI's job is to reduce or remove those repetitive tasks so HR can focus on, things that truly require a human touch. The teams that are leveraging AI, they are starting small, and even as businesses, right? HR leaders need to create systems or need to create processes, like let's take example of recruitment, right?
Yeah.
In the field of recruitment, you post a job, you get thousands of resumes these days, right? You cannot put 1,000 of resumes in front of your hiring manager, right? Because hiring manager does not have that kind of time. So now the job of HR is to get to the best resumes, maybe best 5, 10, 15 resumes, and put them in front of the hiring manager. And ideally, the hiring manager should say, yep, these 5 great candidates, set me up. Right? That's the kind of partnership you want to build. You don't want to put hundreds of resumes in front of your hiring manager. Okay, so now the job of HR or recruitment is, how do we create a selection process so all the resumes that are not the best for this job, they kind of get filtered out. That being said, though, as much as we are leveraging AI to write the job description, candidates are using AI to build their resumes, right? So it's like every resume is passing the smell test of a resume parser in this day and age. So your systems have to be almost smarter and eliminate that bias, remove the not optimal hires from the deluge of resumes that's coming your way, which is why your system of HR or your system of recruitment needs to be really strong so that it's augmenting the human, and it's not really giving things to hiring managers so they feel like HR is not being either a good partner or they're not doing their job in bringing me the best resumes, as an example.
Yeah. And I think between the two, payroll and recruitment are probably the top two right now, getting the most traction and the most use from an AI perspective. You can see why recruitment would be one of those, just because of the sheer volume of things that happen in that space, right? Some teams are probably doing that a lot better than others, though. Do you think is it a process question or is it a tech question?
Yeah, to me, it's a bit of both. It's also, your systems there, you have to be self-training themselves. And what I mean by that is, like, once you say this was a good match, this was a bad match, the system needs to continually keep learning and say, okay,
Yeah.
this was a bad match last time. What can I learn from it so I don't recommend this match again? Or this was a good match. Let me get more matches like this, right? So the system needs to be continually learning. So it's a tech. It's a tech thing, but also back to the process thing. We have to help the systems have to help create the right workflows. So when HR shows up as a strategic partner for my hiring managers. But you mentioned payroll, which is also really interesting, right? When we think of payroll, and still to this day and age, my payroll practitioners, I know they still, you ask them the stress of like a payroll Thursday, everyone in the room, like if you ask an audience, everyone in the room raises their hands, right? And the reason behind that is when they go to process payroll, there are so many errors that could have been resolved even before processing payroll, right? So they almost need, like, in our cars these days, there's a smart assist, right? So they almost need a smart assist in payroll where it's going to say, this person moved from part-time hours to full-time hours. You need to change their employee classification. There were 200 new hires or maybe 20 new hires, and 5 of them did not enter their direct deposit or did not finish their W-2 or like W-4 election. Right? So AI leveraging machine learning algorithms, payroll needs to kind of become proactive at determining these inputs in payroll or these deficiencies in payroll which are going to cause issues when you go to run them, and then kind of proactively addressing them. How we think about it is we've developed and released something called as perfect payroll, which is essentially proactive notifications before you go run a payroll. The next evolution of that is perfect payroll assist, where the system says, hey, like think of going from RAG, retrieval augmentation generation, to agentic, where the system says, hey, I noticed these errors. I've taken care of them. Let me know if you want to reverse this, right? So why it's important to say, let me know if you want to reverse this, or let me know if you're ready to process, because, HR is maybe still not ready to kind of relinquish control. None of us, we are skill skeptics as humans. So we want to be able to have some validation touch points in the workflow, but yet at the same time, we want to be able to say, yep, looks correct, go right ahead. Right. So that's how we are re-envisioning some of these payroll actions.
Yeah. And you said a word in there, part of the name, right? Perfect payroll. And that's pretty much the bottom line with payroll. If it's not perfect, you hear about it, right? I mean, it's one of the most thankless areas I can think of, right? Because that's really the only time you hear from anybody is when it's wrong. And it's severe, right? I mean, if payroll is wrong, it's a big deal.
I always tell my teams, across the board, and I've been saying this for years, being in the industry for a hot minute, is we are not saving people's lives, but we kind of are. Because, what we do is the difference between them putting food on their table, taking their kids to doctor, hospital appointments, having a better quality of life for their families. So the work we do is really important, and it still gives me goosebumps. The work we do is really important because it is as close to saving people's lives, right? Or making a meaningful difference in their lives. And with that, the other thing I'm going to mention is we've been doing surveys of our populations over the last 3 years on what are the number like top or 1 or 2 reasons why talent leaves the organization. So for a couple of years in a row, 2 years ago, the number of reasons people left organizations was payroll, because there were payroll errors, or they were not sure why they were getting paid. They couldn't do earned wage access. Whether there were lots of reasons why they were like, I'm not happy. I can't do this any longer. I'm out. Over the last 2 years, what we've seen is that survey data has shifted to benefits, right? if I don't get the right benefits, then, this is not the right place of employment for me. And which is why, again, back to AI is so important. And we've launched capabilities where during open enrollment, an employee can understand, am I choosing the right benefit plan? Is it the right, deduction for me based on my demographics? I have one kid who's going out of state, so I need, an HMO plan or I need a PPO plan. Give me the best recommendation so I can choose the best benefit for my situation and my family where I'm in my journey, right? But that's another example of how AI can really augment that employee experience and enable, like back in the day, I remember during open enrollment, for all my years in benefits, I would reach out to the HRBP and say, I'm not sure which plan am I picking. Should I, this happened this year. Should I be thinking of a different plan? Now I can have that conversation with a bot or an agent, and that agent can recommend to me the best plan, and it's click 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 done. And I feel this, I find comfort in knowing that the system gave me some recommendations based on my life journey, based on where I'm at in my life, and then I was able to choose the best recommendation for me and my family.
Yeah, yeah. Benefits is still a big issue for people, right? I think you guys had some data in your survey that, I don't know, was it 60% of people just think the process is, I don't even know what the word was, not adequate, but just sort of baseline, right? Like it's not good yet, the process of benefits. And I remember going through this every year when I worked for a big company and having to choose benefits. And there was so much angst at that time of year through that open enrollment process, just trying to, it's so complex.
Absolutely.
And there was nobody sitting beside you explaining it or sort of helping you make the choices. So while I haven't experienced the bot process yet, the AI helping me with that, I can imagine that it's pretty significant in improving that process. And I'm sure most people are looking forward to getting an opportunity to do that.
Certainly, yeah. We've seen tremendous adoption of this offering since we've rolled it out in all employee segments. You would think only enterprise finds value in this. No, we've seen it across the board in lower end of the market and higher end of the market, where organizations are taking up this offering and assisting their employees choose better benefits for themselves.
Yeah, yeah. That brings me back to that sort of that push and pull, right? So one of the things that you guys looked at and are trying to figure out how to address is how do we close the gap between what employees expect from their organizations and what employers can actually deliver? And I don't know if you're seeing that gap close or you're seeing it widen as a whole, but are there some things that you guys have been thinking about in terms of how we bridge that gap next year, especially with, Gen Z making up a bigger share of the workforce? Like things, we've got 5 different generations in the workforce, so we're all in different places, right? But there's ways to solve for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, sometimes I'm still like kind of trumped by all the vernaculars. I think my son told me he's Gen Alpha or something like that. But
I
back to,
can't keep up with
yeah, I
them.
can't keep up either. I'm like, you know what? I am a millennial, and I kind of like I stopped counting after. They're all some
Yeah,
sort of
right,
generations after, right?
right.
But you do bring up a really good point that there are so many types of generations working in the workforce right now. But when you think about it, different generations want different type of personalization for them, right?
Yeah.
Because their idea of what to expect from their work is really different. So it's personalization, it's growth. Also, Gen Z, it's a lot about transparency, right? And then if you think about Gen Z, right, most of them, like us as me as millennials, right, we by the time we got tech on our hands, or even mobile phones in our hands, we were kind of like late teens, right? But Gen Z's, they grew up with technology, maybe like at their 3 or 4 year mark, they were like leveraging technology day in day out, right? So what they want is consumer grade digital experiences at work, right? It is
Mhm.
B2B, but at the same time the experience has to be B2C, right? So their expectation of work technology is they're so different than the generations prior to them. Now, what HR can do is to bridge the gap is through skills-based development, modern self-service tools, or just AI that personalizes communication and learning. So, what again, back to our survey, what we've seen is that 78% of HR leaders say that expectations have increased many folds. And then 72% of employees, they just want that personalized development, right? As an example, like the learning platforms, they have to offer a plethora of courses, right? They have to offer a plethora of courses where employees can kind of like learn, grow themselves, but also back to that AI-enabled searches, AI-enabled planning, right? Where there's so many course libraries, but how do you create a course curriculum out of it? How can you enable maybe managers to help employees create their curriculum and, kind of self-train themselves? So lots and lots of self-service, lots and lots of better digital experiences, and just lots and lots of personalization leading to skills-based development.
Yeah, yeah. And I think the employees feel like, well, you know a lot about me, right? I've told you who I am, you know what my skills are, you know the work I'm doing in the organization. You tell me what should I be, where should I be focusing? Granted, I'm going to have some interests, but you're right. When a lot of people go out to a learning library, they're completely overwhelmed with the amount of things that are out there, the options, the choices. It's like, being able to provide them a more custom fit, here's what we think is for you, and giving them some choices. That's like the benefits conversation, right? It narrows down the list. Because I don't know about you, but I love the food at Cheesecake Factory, but I get overwhelmed by their 47-page menu. It's like, I don't know, just get what you always order, right? Get the
Yes, I
taquitos.
totally.
It's just too much. Like we just don't want to process it. And the other thing, if you're like me, by the end of the day, you're done making decisions. Like I don't want to make any more decisions. You just tell me what I need to do.
Absolutely. It's funny you say that because, and I'm sure all our listeners, especially parents, would agree to this. During day, you're making so many decisions. By the time you get to dinner, you're like, just tell me what do you want to eat. I don't
Right.
have the energy to make another decision. I don't even want to talk. I just want to like be silent, process, and like just get over with dinner right now, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so with HR being seen now as more strategic, what do you think still stands in the way of HR taking the lead on this transformation? Are there some key things that they need to be focused on and obstacles that they need to move or get help moving so that they can lead this? Because I know it's scary and I know people are still have a little fear around it. There's probably also some fatigue around it, but they need to do it. It's coming.
Absolutely, yeah. As HR is stepping into this strategic role, the challenge is still the systems are not keeping up. And what I mean by that is, in lower end of the market, so maybe even if like 50 below, every customer has up to 5 integrations that they are integrating with, like other systems, HR systems are integrating with.
Yeah.
When you go up to 200, we see like they have somewhere between 9 to 14 systems they are integrating with. And that number keeps on going up and up as the size of the organization increases, right? So, and all of these systems that need to kind of interface and interact with each other, HR practitioners feel that they are held to a so different strategic standard while still using tools that are being built for an administrative era, right? So the issue isn't HR's ability, but the issue is the ecosystem around them, that all the systems, they need to be connected, they need to be modern. And once that happens, the outcomes will improve significantly. So HR is still feeling the pressure of all the systems not humming, coming together, not like data silos across systems, while their expectation from leaders around them to be able to give them data is so much higher, so much different. And then that's a challenge HR is still struggling with. And back to HR leaders report, we see that 51% HR leaders say that their data is scattered across systems. They have outdated tech that slows their progress. And about 42% they tell us that they still lack analytical capabilities that are needed for strategic decision making.
Yeah. Yeah. And you said it right there. I mean, data is still one of the biggest issues. It's always been a challenge. I think At the end of the day, whoever cracks that nut is going to be hugely successful. But that, even with AI, it's only as smart as your ability to bring the right data together to make decisions. I think the other thing that was in your report there and in our report as well is a pretty large number, maybe at least 2/3 of organizations that are looking for new tools right now. They're looking for a new HRIS to help them with the experience and bring some of this stuff together.
Yeah, certainly. There is a lot of research tells us time and time again that this true enterprise transformation is standing in their way. Fragmented systems, and HR can transform an organization without that single source of truths. And really, true transformation happens when HR, IT, finance, they all align around connected data and shared priorities.
Yeah, I think HR's got a big job, right? They've got to bring that message that AI is going to empower us, not, bring us down, but at the same time, not replace us. And that message also needs to come from higher up as well. Like if we're laying off people as an organization because of AI, it's really hard to send the message that, AI is a partner to us, not it's not replacing us. And so um, I think that also puts some onus on us as, employees to think about what do I need to do to educate myself? What are the things I need to learn in order to, be in the right place when I need to be there, right? That I don't get left behind or, end up on the end of this, situation.
And I think, you hit it on the head, right? There is still hesitation from an employee perspective, but the conversation is shifting. Leaders are seeing AI not as a replacement, but more about like a co-pilot that's, kind of like sitting right alongside me and, helping me become more efficient, giving me time back in my
Yeah.
day-to-day. But back to the employee, the onus is also on the employee to be upskilling themselves day in, day out, right? Attend trainings, ask for trainings, right? And see how can I leverage AI in my day to day and do things much more efficiently, right? Don't wait on organization to come and only do an AI training. Raise your hand. How can I upskill myself day in, day out and start leveraging AI in my day to day? Right? Do
Yeah.
not be afraid of it. Embrace it. It is one of those, cliches. The sky is the limit. Embrace it, and that's when we as humans will see our true transformation. And then when humans transform, that's when you see enterprises transform.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I completely agree. And I like the advice of, raise your hand. Like that's how I learned and, figured out the next thing, moved to the next level was I was always raising my hand. Like, well, I'll try that. I don't know what it is, but I'm certainly willing to figure it out and learn. And I think as employees, that's what we should all be doing. Let's not fear it. Let's face it and go with it. Is there one trend that you see that HR leaders can't afford to ignore in 2026, and maybe also an outdated mindset that they need to leave behind in 2025?
Yeah, skills, we talked a little bit about skills, but skills intelligence is a trend that HR just cannot ignore. Companies that understand skills, track skills, they will be more agile, they will be more competitive, and they will be more resilient, right? HR leaders say that their top challenge still includes retention, engagement, and standing up modern processes, right? As much as companies are maybe reducing their workforce, they are not reducing their best of best workforces, right? They still need people to do the job. Talent is still continues to be the number one asset for any organization. So how do we leverage that skills intelligence and make sure we kind of keep investing in our people back? But this trend isn't just technology. It's about overall experience modernization, right? So that means better tools, faster support, that reduces friction, and as I mentioned, connected systems that feel intuitive to today's workforce. All of this coming together is really that skills intelligence that HR practitioners, leaders just can't ignore today.
Yeah. Well, this has been fantastic, Pragya. I really enjoyed having you on the show today. It's been a great conversation. Hopefully, we taught people a few things and they can take some of these things away to help them in 2026. It's going to be a fantastic year, I think.
Wonderful. Yes, certainly. I really hope the people found value, and let's all embrace AI. And, in going into 2026, this is going to be I look at years as like milestones, right? There is a year of learning, there's a year of building, to me, 2026 is a year of revolution. I know that's how I'm taking it. That's how I'm taking it for my teams. And I hope our viewers can feel that for themselves. So thank you so much for having me. It's been great to chat with you.
Yeah. Where can people find your HR Leaders Report and other information about what you guys got going on?
It's available on our website. So please find isolved.hcm.com and they can find the report there.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I also want to thank our producers, the Brand Method Media Group. I want to thank our marketing team who will work hard to get this out there to you. And I want to thank you for tuning in to the show. Don't forget to listen next week to Stacy and Cliff while they spill the tea on HR tech. And also check out the report this year on sapientinsights.com. It's all the data and scoop you want on HR tech is out there now and available. That's all the time we have for this episode of HR We Have a Problem. If you enjoyed the episode, you can subscribe to it on your favorite podcast app. Leave us a review if you have a sec. Also drop us a line or schedule a chat on the website. We'd love to hear about the topics that you want to hear more about on this show. And we will be back in 2 weeks with another episode of HR We Have a Problem. Thanks, everybody.